When was the last time you stood in front of a mirror and really asked yourself, am I truly living the life I want? Not the one others expect. Not the one society applauds. But a life that resonates with the deepest part of your soul. What if the version of you you've buried under roles, labels, and expectations isn't just quietly waiting, but screaming to be heard? Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers of modern psychology, left us with a message so simple, yet so deeply ignored. Choose yourself. Even when the entire world seems to demand otherwise. We live in a society built on distraction. One designed to keep us busy, overwhelmed, and obedient. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning, we are pulled in every direction. Work demands, family needs, social standards. They all try to define who we should be, what we must strive for, and even how we measure success. But here's the truth that few dare to face. Every time you place someone else's needs above your own, you're sending a subtle but powerful message to your inner being: you don't matter. Your longings, your instincts, your truth, they become background noise in the theater of performance we call modern life. Jung believed our unconscious mind isn't just a part of us, it is us. And when we continually silence it, suppress it, ignore the subtle discomforts it sends, we lose connection with the very source of our authenticity. That gnawing feeling that something is off? That isn't a glitch, it's your soul trying to reach you. Even if the thought of facing it terrifies you. Take a breath and reflect. How many of your recent choices came from true inner clarity? And how many were born from fear? Fear of letting someone down. Fear of stepping beyond what's considered normal. Fear of the unfamiliar, or worse, fear of your own power. Jung asked us to face these questions, not for theory's sake, but because he understood a fundamental truth. Decisions rooted in fear create disconnection. The further we drift from our center, the more we feel lost in our own lives. But let's be clear, choosing yourself doesn't mean rejecting others. It's not about arrogance or isolation. It's about realizing that you can only offer your best to the world when you are first in harmony with yourself. This is what self-love truly means. Not indulgence. Not irresponsibility. But the very foundation upon which every meaningful connection is built. When you prioritize yourself, your energy shifts. You stop attracting people who want to dim your light, and instead draw in those who reflect it. The universe doesn't ignore authenticity. In fact, it rewards it. But to reach that place, you must confront your shadows. The parts of yourself you've buried. The impulses and truths you were taught to be ashamed of. Jung called this the shadow self, not because it's bad, but because it's hidden. And in facing the shadow, you ignite transformation. This isn't quick work. It's not glamorous. But it is sacred. And in return, you gain something invaluable: clarity, purpose, peace. The ability to say no without guilt, to speak without fear, to live without apology. And most importantly, you regain freedom. The freedom to simply be who you were always meant to be. Now, you might be asking, how do I start? Start by listening. Really listening. That moment when your chest tightens, or you feel a surge of emotion. Ask yourself, what is this trying to show me? Jung once said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Your intuition isn't an accessory, it's your guide. And though it may lead you through uncomfortable paths, it will never lead you astray. Perhaps you're in a relationship that no longer nourishes you. Maybe you've spent years chasing a goal that no longer excites your spirit. Or maybe, just maybe, you're living a life that was never yours to begin with, built brick by brick from borrowed expectations. None of this makes you weak. What's weak is continuing to wear a mask that suffocates you. Choosing yourself takes strength. The kind of strength that isn't loud. It doesn't shout or demand approval. It just quietly says, this is who I am. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. And that authenticity, that radical honesty with yourself, is what will change everything. Choosing yourself isn't just a moment, it's a series of choices made day after day, often in silence and without applause. It means confronting not just the lies others told you, but the ones you've told yourself. It means facing the fear of disappointing people. It means learning to sit in the discomfort of being misunderstood. But this is where Jung's wisdom becomes our lifeline, the path of individuation. The lifelong journey toward becoming your truest self isn't meant to be easy. It's meant to be transformational. Transformation doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the raw, unfiltered moments when you realize, I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend. I can't suppress. I can't hide who I am. Think about it. What parts of your life feel heavy? Which commitments drain you? What beliefs do you carry that were never truly yours? We stay attached to the familiar because we've been taught that stability equals safety. But is it really safety if it costs you your joy, your health, your identity? Jung challenges us to view change not as loss, but as liberation. That relationship you're afraid to leave, the one that dims your spirit, what if letting it go opened the door to something more aligned with who you truly are? That job that drains you, the one that brings status but steals your peace, what if walking away made space for purpose? That version of yourself you've been performing for years, what if shedding it revealed a life far more beautiful than you ever imagined? Choosing yourself is not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. It's about learning to trust the answers that rise from within, not the ones dictated from outside. And yes, you will face resistance. Not everyone will understand your decision to break the mold. Some may criticize. Others may drift away. But their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to your truth. Because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real people. People who are willing to be vulnerable, to be whole, to be fully alive. Jung taught that the unconscious is always speaking, always nudging, always guiding us toward integration, toward healing, toward wholeness. But when we ignore its voice, we become fragmented. We find ourselves chasing things that never satisfy, people who never see us, roles that never fit. The cost of living a lie is your peace. And no success, no approval, no external reward is worth that price. So ask yourself now, what are you holding onto out of fear? What have you convinced yourself you need, just because letting go would mean facing the unknown? Remember, the unknown is not your enemy. It's the birthplace of your transformation. The moment you let go of what's misaligned, the universe begins to shift. You'll notice it in the little things, clarity where there was once confusion, opportunities that seem to arrive without effort, connections that feel effortless and true. This isn't coincidence. Jung called this synchronicity, those meaningful, seemingly magical events that occur when we are in alignment with our deeper self. When you are aligned internally, your external world begins to reflect it. You no longer have to chase, you attract. You no longer have to force, you allow. But to live this way requires a kind of honesty most people avoid. It requires admitting when you've betrayed your own boundaries, when you've settled, when you've pretended to be okay with less than you deserve. Yet none of this is a reason for shame. It's an invitation to choose again, to begin again, to live in alignment, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Authenticity is not a destination. It's a practice. And every moment offers you the chance to come back to yourself. Even when you slip, even when you fall back into old patterns, it's okay. The journey isn't about perfection. It's about returning. Returning to your truth. Returning to your essence. Returning to that quiet, knowing place within you that never stopped believing in who you really are. And in time, you will notice something powerful. Your relationships evolve. Your conversations deepen. Your life feels less like a performance and more like a prayer. You stop needing to prove yourself. You start simply being yourself. And in that being, you find peace. Not the kind that comes from everything being easy, but the kind that comes from everything being real. The people who are meant for you will not require you to shrink. They will not ask you to dim your light. They will meet you in your fullness. And the ones who fade away, bless them. Release them. Their chapter in your story is complete. Because the more you live in alignment, the less tolerance you have for anything less. This is what it means to choose yourself. This process, this sacred journey of choosing yourself, is not linear. You'll have days when you feel powerful, aligned, and unstoppable, and others when doubt clouds your mind, and the weight of your old patterns tries to pull you back. And that's okay. Jung never promised that individuation would be painless. He understood that every transformation requires death. Not a physical one, but the letting go of all that no longer serves you. The death of the mask. The death of the performance. The death of the roles you adopted to survive, not to thrive. And in that death, a new life begins. But make no mistake, the resistance you feel is not a sign to stop. It's proof that you are on the verge of something real. Every time you honor your intuition, even when it scares you, especially when it scares you, you build a deeper relationship with your soul. And with each courageous step, you reclaim more of who you truly are. You start to realize that authenticity isn't something you find, it's something you uncover. It's been with you all along, hidden beneath layers of fear, conditioning, and self-doubt. So take a breath and allow yourself to feel it, the pull of your truth, the whisper of your inner knowing, that sacred inner voice that says, "There's more. You were meant for more. Not more status, not more possessions, but more depth, more presence, more alignment with your values, your essence, your truth." Because when you live from that place, everything changes. The world no longer feels like a battlefield. It becomes a mirror. And what it reflects back to you, peace, joy, connection, is a direct result of what you've chosen to embody within. So often we look outward, chasing solutions, hoping the next thing will finally bring the fulfillment we crave. But Jung reminded us, the answers you seek are not out there. They're in here, inside you. All you have to do is listen. Truly listen. To the way your body tenses in the presence of falsehood. To the way your heart softens in the presence of truth. To the moments when time seems to pause, and something inside you whispers, "This is it. This is real." That's the life you're here to live. A life not built on obligation, but on meaning. Not shaped by conformity, but by intention. But to live that life, you must give yourself permission to change. To let go of the roles you've outgrown. To rewrite the script. To walk away from anything that asks you to abandon yourself. This is not selfish. This is sacred. Because until you are aligned with yourself, your giving is incomplete. Your love is diluted. Your impact is diminished. But when you stand in your truth, fully, unapologetically, you become a force, not of control, but of coherence. You become the kind of person whose presence heals, whose words resonate, whose silence even speaks volumes. And the beauty of it is, you don't need to try so hard. You just need to be. That's the paradox of authenticity. It requires effort, and yet it's the most natural thing in the world. Because it is who you are underneath it all. So take a moment now, and ask yourself with complete honesty, where in my life am I pretending? Where am I performing? Where have I traded authenticity for acceptance? And most importantly, am I ready to stop? Because the moment you say yes to yourself, the universe listens. Things begin to shift. The people who resonate with your truth begin to appear. And those who never saw you begin to disappear. This isn't coincidence, it's alignment. Jung called it synchronicity. The meaningful coincidences that arise when your inner world and your outer world begin to mirror each other. And the more you live in integrity with yourself, the more these moments will find you. The more life will feel like it's unfolding for you, rather than happening to you. But this only happens when you dare to choose yourself. To choose honesty over comfort, growth over familiarity, alignment over approval. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with your choices. You are the one who lies awake with your thoughts. You are the one who walks your path. So why not make it one that reflects your truth? You owe that to yourself. And in doing so, you give the world something rare, something real. You become a lighthouse for others still lost in the fog. Not by telling them where to go, but by showing them what it looks like to live with courage, honesty, and soul. Jung believed that when even one person steps fully into their authenticity, they shift the collective consciousness. They remind us all of what's possible. You can be that person. And maybe, deep down, you already are. Perhaps no one ever taught you how to choose yourself. Maybe, for as long as you can remember, you were praised for self-sacrifice, for putting others first, for being agreeable, adaptable, easy to be around. But let's pause and ask, at what cost? If being easy to love requires abandoning who you are, is it really love? Carl Jung would say that the greatest tragedy is not in being misunderstood by others, but in misunderstanding yourself, in trading your essence for a mask, in becoming a stranger in your own life. And this is why the process of choosing yourself is a return, a homecoming, a remembering of all the pieces you left behind to fit into a world that never truly saw you. You see, choosing yourself is not a rebellion, it's a reunion with your dreams, your boundaries, your voice, your truth. And once you begin this journey, something awakens inside you. A fire, a quiet confidence, a sacred clarity that whispers, I deserve more. Not because of ego, not because you are entitled, but because you are alive. And being alive is reason enough to seek wholeness. So many people drift through life disconnected from this truth. They live by default, not by design. They follow paths laid out by others, unaware that every step is pulling them further from their soul. But here's the miracle, you can change that. Right now. With one choice. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes, choosing yourself is as simple as saying no when you mean no. Taking a break when your body asks for rest. Ending a conversation that drains you. Protecting your energy like it matters, because it does. And the more you do it, the stronger you become. Not hard, not guarded, strong. The kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are, and honoring that truth even when it's inconvenient. That's the kind of strength the world needs more of. Because when people choose themselves, they stop chasing empty validation. They stop clinging to things that don't resonate. They stop trying to be everything for everyone, and start being something real for themselves. And in that shift, everything changes. Relationships deepen. Work becomes more meaningful. Conversations become honest. Life becomes aligned. But don't mistake this for perfection. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. You will. You'll say yes when you meant no. You'll stay too long. You'll ignore your gut. You'll forget yourself again and again. That's human. The key is not to avoid the fall, but to rise, wiser and truer, every time you do. Jung believed that wholeness is not the absence of flaws, but the integration of them. When we embrace our light and our darkness, our strengths and our shadows, we stop chasing ideals and start living in truth. You become whole not by fixing yourself, but by accepting yourself. And once you do, the The shame begins to melt away. The fear loses its grip. The need to prove dissolves. Because you realize you were never broken. You were simply buried under expectations that were never yours to carry. This realization isn't loud. It doesn't come with fanfare. It arrives softly, in a quiet moment of stillness, when you finally hear your own voice, and it feels like coming home. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you can never go back. You start to see how much of your life was shaped by fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being too much. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of being alone. But choosing yourself teaches you something powerful. You can face those fears and survive. Not just survive, thrive. You begin to learn that solitude is not emptiness, it's spaciousness. Space to heal, to listen, to remember who you are. And from that space you create. You rebuild. You rise. So if you're in a season of loneliness, a season of doubt, a season of shedding everything false, hold on. This is the space where your soul expands, where your roots deepen, where your foundation strengthens. It may feel like you're losing everything, but you're not. You're just losing what was never truly yours. What remains after the letting go, that's who you really are. And that person, that version of you that's emerging, is powerful. Not because they have all the answers, but because they're finally asking the right questions. What do I truly value? What brings me peace? What do I need in order to feel whole? When you begin to answer those questions with honesty, your entire life begins to shift. Not all at once, not overnight, but steadily, authentically, unapologetically. And that shift, it's contagious. Your courage gives others permission to be courageous too. Your honesty lights the way for others to speak their truth. Your presence becomes a living reminder that authenticity is not only possible, it's necessary. This is how change happens. Not through force, but through truth. One person at a time. And it all begins when you say, I choose me. Every time you choose yourself, you create a new standard, not just for how others treat you, but for how you treat yourself. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Not because you're trying to be someone else, but because you've stopped pretending to be someone you're not. And this authenticity, this unwavering connection with your inner truth, becomes your compass. It doesn't mean the road ahead will be smooth. In fact, you'll likely encounter more resistance the deeper you step into who you are. Old narratives will try to pull you back. Familiar voices may guilt you. Even parts of your own mind, conditioned by years of conformity, will question your choices. But here's the gift. Those moments of doubt aren't the enemy. They're the invitation. The proof that you're standing at the edge of growth. And growth, real growth, doesn't come from comfort. It comes from courage. Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. But he didn't say that pain must consume you. He showed us that pain, when faced with awareness, becomes the very fuel that awakens us. So don't run from the discomfort. Don't numb it. Don't silence it. Feel it. Sit with it. Listen to what it's telling you. Because beneath the discomfort lies a deeper truth, a message from the unconscious that you are ready to evolve. That something old must end for something new to begin. This is the sacred space where transformation takes root. And slowly, you begin to understand, the life you want isn't waiting for you out there, it's already growing inside of you. In your thoughts. In your choices. In the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Choosing yourself is a daily practice. It happens in the smallest decisions, turning off the noise to hear your own thoughts. Saying no to an invitation when your body is asking for rest. Walking away from a conversation that feels misaligned. taking the risk to pursue what sets your soul on fire, even if it means starting over. And yes, starting over is scary. But staying stuck in a life that doesn't belong to you is far scarier. Jung taught that we are not here to become what others expect. We are here to become who we already are, beneath the layers, beneath the conditioning. And when you remember that, you stop seeking permission. You stop waiting for someone to validate your worth, your dreams, your path. You give yourself what you've been looking for all along: approval, love, belonging, not as a reward, but as a birthright. You begin to see that the life you've been chasing externally is one that can only be built internally first. That no achievement, no relationship, no possession can replace the peace of being aligned with yourself. This kind of inner alignment doesn't just change your mood, it changes your magnetism. People feel it when they're around you. You become grounded, centered, present. Your words carry weight because they come from within. Your presence becomes a safe space for others to show up more fully, too. And in this way, choosing yourself is not just a personal act. It's a relational one. A ripple effect that touches everyone you encounter. But you must be willing to protect this alignment, to guard it fiercely, because the world will try to pull you off center. It will tempt you with noise, distractions, shortcuts. It will dangle approval like a carrot on a string. That's why you need practices that root you. Stillness, reflection, boundaries, honesty. These are not luxuries. They are lifelines. And when you live from this grounded place, your life begins to reflect it. The people who truly see you begin to show up. The opportunities that once felt far away begin to knock on your door. The decisions that once felt impossible become clear. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've remembered your worth. You've reclaimed your voice. You've realigned with your truth. This is the real power. Not in controlling others or forcing outcomes, but in living so fully in your truth that the world around you begins to respond in kind. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. If you've been wondering when to start, start now. If you've been doubting whether you're worthy, let this be your reminder. You always have been. There is nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing to prove. You are enough, just as you are, and you always have been. All that's left is to choose you. And as you continue this journey inward, you'll begin to notice something profound. Life begins to soften. Not because the world becomes easier, but because you're no longer in constant resistance to it. You stop forcing. You stop pretending. You stop trying to make yourself fit into spaces that were never built for the real you. This isn't weakness, it's liberation. It's the freedom of no longer chasing someone else's version of success. The peace that comes from realizing that you don't have to run anymore. You don't have to prove. You don't have to wear the mask. When Jung spoke of individuation, he didn't just speak of self-knowledge. He spoke of integration, of bringing all parts of yourself into harmony. The parts you love, the parts you hide, the parts that ache, the parts that shine. Because true wholeness doesn't come from becoming someone new. It comes from welcoming home every part of who you've always been. And this is the paradox. The very things you've spent your life trying to fix or erase might be the keys to your authenticity. That sensitivity you were told was weakness? It's your gateway to deep empathy. That quiet voice you silenced because it didn't match the noise around you? That's your intuition. That pain you buried to keep moving forward? That's your wound, and within it lies your greatest wisdom. Jung believed that our shadows are not monsters to be feared, but teachers to be heard. They carry the very truths we've been avoiding, the truths that could set us free if we dare to listen. So what have you been running from? Is it the fear of failure? The pain of rejection? The terror of being seen for who you really are? Whatever it is, know this. What you avoid will always control you. But what you face, you reclaim. Every step you take toward yourself, no matter how small, weakens the hold of fear. Every time you choose truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance, you strengthen your center. You become more rooted, more clear, more alive, and you begin to trust yourself, not just occasionally but deeply. You trust your instincts. You trust your rhythm. You trust your decisions, even when they don't make sense to anyone else. That trust is your anchor in a world that constantly tries to sway you. And from that anchor, you begin to build. Not just a life that looks good, but a life that feels right. One where your yes means yes. Your no means no. Your boundaries are respected, not because others suddenly change, but because you've changed. You no longer tolerate anything that dishonors your truth. And the result? You stop betraying yourself. That subtle self-betrayal, that quiet voice you ignored, that emotion you numbed, that intuition you doubted, starts to dissolve. You reclaim the pieces. You remember what it feels like to stand in full alignment. It's not loud. It's not showy. It's stillness. It's presence. It's a deep, quiet strength that says, I know who I am, and I no longer need permission to be that. And when that shift happens, when you finally choose to live as yourself, not just for a moment but as a way of being, you become magnetic. You stop attracting chaos. You start attracting peace. You stop chasing validation. You start drawing in connection. You stop overthinking every move, because you're no longer playing a role. You're simply being. And in being, there is clarity. You know when to stay, when to walk away, when to speak up, when to remain still. Not because someone told you what's right, but because your inner voice is no longer drowned out by noise. That voice, your true compass, becomes louder with every honest decision you make. And you realize, this is what alignment feels like. Not perfection, not control, but presence, peace, power. And you don't have to explain it to anyone. You don't have to justify your boundaries. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth. You don't have to apologize for honoring your truth. Because your life is no longer about performance, it's about presence. You wake up in the morning not with dread, but with clarity. You move through your day not with pressure, but with intention. And yes, you still have challenges. Life doesn't become a fairy tale, but you meet those challenges as yourself, not as a fragmented version, not as someone pretending to cope, but as someone who is whole, honest, grounded. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." It is not a luxury. It is a responsibility, a sacred calling. And it starts with a decision you can make right now, one that you'll have to make again and again. To stop abandoning yourself. To stop silencing the truth just to keep the peace. To stop waiting for the world to give you what only you can give yourself. The moment you choose yourself, everything begins to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because you finally meet it as your full self. So now we've come to this moment. A moment not marked by grand endings or dramatic resolutions, but by something far more powerful, awareness. The awareness that your life, your real life, has always been waiting for you. Not outside of you. Not someday in the future. But right here. Right now. Beneath the noise. Beneath the roles. Beneath the endless striving to be enough. You've always been enough. Carl Jung didn't tell us to become someone new. He invited us to uncover who we've always been beneath the layers. To dive into the depths of the unconscious, not to escape life, but to embrace it more fully. Because the truth is, you can't find meaning by avoiding yourself. You find it by turning inward, by learning to sit with the discomfort, by facing the parts of yourself you were told to hide. And in doing so, discovering that your darkness holds just as much truth as your light. This is the final and most profound act of choosing yourself, embracing your totality, your joy and your sadness, your confidence and your doubt, your strength and your fragility. All of it belongs. All of it is worthy. You are not here to live a half-life. You are not here to suppress, to shrink, to dim your light in the hope that someone else might feel more comfortable. You are here to take up space, to speak your truth, to live not from the surface, but from the soul. And when you live from the soul, you stop seeking validation from people who were never meant to understand your path. You stop bending your truth to keep others comfortable. You stop pretending to be okay with a life that doesn't honor your deepest knowing. Instead, you start moving differently. You become more intentional. You listen more carefully to your intuition, to your body, to the energy in the room. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop running and start resting. You stop chasing and start attracting. You begin to move with a sacred stillness, a quiet power, because you've returned home to yourself. And home, you realize, was never a place. It was a state of being, a deep, unshakable connection with who you are when the noise fades, when the pressure lifts, when the mask falls away. Jung knew that this journey would not be easy, but he also knew that it would be worth it. Because when you live in alignment, you unlock a level of peace that no external achievement can provide. It's a peace that doesn't depend on things going your way. It lives within you. It's woven into your breath, your choices, your presence. It's the peace of knowing that you no longer betray yourself to be loved. It's the peace of knowing that your worth is not negotiable. And it's the peace of knowing that you were never broken, just buried. Buried beneath noise, buried beneath shame, buried beneath years of living for others. But now you're rising, not as a new person, but as your truest self. And this version of you doesn't need to beg for space. It creates space. This version of you doesn't fear rejection, because it knows that anything that cannot hold your truth was never meant to stay. This version of you leads not with force, but with presence. Because presence is power, and authenticity is irresistible. So as you step forward from this moment, take with you the wisdom of everything you've remembered. That you don't need to be perfect to be powerful. That your shadow is not your enemy, it is your teacher. That the more honest you are with yourself, the less you need to explain yourself to others. That every time you choose yourself, you are choosing peace, integrity, truth. And that, perhaps more than anything else, is what the world needs right now. People who are no longer afraid to be real. People who are rooted. People who are awake. People who are no longer trying to fit into a world that was never built for their truth, but who are instead shaping a new world from the inside out. This is not the end of your journey. This is the beginning of a new chapter, one where you no longer live by default, but by design. One where you wake each day with intention, not obligation. One where you walk through life with your head high, not in arrogance, but in self-respect. A chapter where your life becomes your own again, because you've remembered. And that remembrance is the real revolution. So if this message resonated with you, don't just let it live here. Let it move through you. Let it shape the choices you make today, tomorrow, and every moment after. And if you're ready to walk this path, not alone, but as part of something bigger, join us. This space, this community, exists to remind you, you are not alone in this journey. We are a movement, a reflection, a gathering of souls who are no longer afraid to be seen as we truly are. So tell me in the comments, what part of this message reached your soul today? What are you ready to let go of? And what are you finally willing to claim as yours? And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next reflection, the next truth, The next reminder that you are worthy of a life that honors you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. But most of all, thank you for choosing you. Until next time, stay true, stay whole, and never forget, the real you is more than enough.